And good afternoon here in the United States on Sunday School Carnivore. This is our second Sunday School edition here. I'm John Laspina, the Carnivore teacher. Let's go around, introduce ourselves, tell us a little bit about ourselves. I guess I'll start. I went carnivore 2.5 years ago, went low carb 6.5 years ago, healed so many aspects of my life, improved my life, felt so much better. Lower back problems, AFib, skin problems, depression, weight was the original reason I started. But when my body got healthy, all these other things came into check and the weight just fell off. So I am in this for life. I was even thinking about getting a tattoo on my arm, something seriously, because I'm so in on this way of life. This is my health. It's my wealth, and I'm passing it on with my YouTube channel. So that's me. Let's go clockwise, George.
Yeah, so I'm George Goodenough. I'm 59 years of age. I was a soldier in my younger life. I've done many things since then. I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes on March the 1st of 2022. A lovely nurse told me that all carbs are sugar. So I went away, did the research, threw away the prescriptions that the doctor had given me, which is metformin and statins. Went low carb to begin with, then went through keto, and eventually came to carnivore in September 2023. Haven't looked back. No more type 2 diabetes. The NHS has declared me, National Health Service has declared me cured, and I've lost 120 pounds. So I am now in much better shape than I was when I started off at morbidly obese. 3 years and 3 months in, like yourself, not going back ever. And so my life is so much better now in many, many different ways, thanks to carnivore.
Alex?
Yeah, hi, John. Thanks for inviting me. As I said, I'm a sub of yours for a while, and it's a pleasure to be here today. Guys, I'm Alex. I'm from Liverpool in the UK. I've been a carnivore since the 1st of May 2022. So today is 1,148 on my carnivore journey. Very similar to George's. Lost a considerable amount of weight. Was very skeptical at first, but after the 1st of May, watching Fat Fiction documentary, which I recommend to many people, it was my trigger to change. And that's one thing I hadn't done. When I was about 60, 61, 62, I was pretty depressed. I didn't know it. But carnivore, sticking to this and having a bit of guts, if you pardon the pun, has changed my life forever. And as I said to you at the beginning, John, it's carnivore for life, not carnivore. So one thing that happened is my spelling, but that was just trying to get onto the StreamYard before. But I would say to anybody who's not carnivore and watching this tonight, drop all your skepticism. I was mainly plant-based all my life. Up to about the age of 50, I had my knee replaced. Stopped doing all my sports and retired as well, which was a bad move. But that started the slippery slope. But when I found carnivore, it just gave me my life back. So the last 3 years, I've lost all my health issues, many, many of them, as we all have. We've always got a long list, haven't we? I've lost all my mental issues and challenges, and I've dropped 47 pounds altogether. So I was quite a big lad like George was, but he knocks my socks off. He was much bigger than me. And today, I'm really trying to get on YouTube as much as possible because I love sharing good news and I'm passionate about what we're all doing. And as I say, carnivore for life.
Great.
All right. Well, that leaves me to wrap up the introductions. My name is Christy. I beg to differ, John. I'm also in the U.S., but it's morning here, sir, because I'm on the West Coast out in California. So it's a nice early Sunday morning here. But I went carnivore actually 2 years ago in June of 2023. There's my fellow carnivore. Her name is Pixel. She often shows up during live streams to say hello to everybody. But I did not go carnivore on purpose. I actually started keto in February of 2023 with just my latest attempt to lose weight. I was a chronic yo-yo dieter going up and down about 20 pounds from my teenage years onward. And I'm currently 49. So that's a lot of years, to be doing that to myself. And I did find weight loss with keto And then just kind of, I say accidentally went carnivore because I just was eating a meat-based keto with meat and some veg. And then I was lazy and didn't want to cook those vegetables. And I much preferred the ribeye anyways. And so I was just eating meat and started to notice issues that I didn't even know that I had disappear, including some social anxiety, some arthritic type symptoms that were in my hands and my knees, things of that nature. Just my overall sleep was better. My energy was better. And then I started to discover, oh, wait, carnivore is a thing. Oh, yeah, there's all of these wonderful people like these gentlemen that are on the screen with me today doing this as well. And I am not an outlier. You know, we all have, like I think Alex said, we all have our long list of benefits. And so what I find for me now is that carnivore helps me. My food noise that I used to struggle with daily, even on keto, I would have food noise for, wanting things, not being able to control portions of things. That's kind of all gone. And I'm just able to sort of maintain my weight and not think about the food that I'm eating, which is crazy because that used to take up most of my mental bandwidth for most of my life. I would be counting calories and thinking about food and what am I going to eat next and how can I not get fat? Those thoughts consumed my mind for years. And so to be free from that is, I think, one of the things that's just so important to me and to move forward with my life. I also have 2 sons. My younger son has been a carnivore since February of 2024. So he is just doing fabulous. And if anyone wants to chat more about that or has questions about how to transition a teenager to be specific, I'm more than happy to talk about that and answer those questions as well.
Thank you. And Christy has a lot of knowledge in that area, not just with her kids, but because she teaches kids as well. And I could tell you that for sure. Before we start with it, if anybody has any questions, any viewers, type QQQ in the comment with your question, and we'll try to the best of our knowledge to answer your question, give you our thoughts. Before we do that, we'll highlight a few people who've said hello here. Carnivore Hercules, just home from church. We've got George's wife. Hey, lady. Looks like George is eating well. Venison rump steak for dinner. Sounds good.
I did, yes.
Or he will be. And then we've got our quack, about an hour and a half south of
Rick.
me. Rick, my good buddy from Miami, carnivore. He's the 42, right? 42-year carnivore, coming up on 42 years. Amazing guy. And just amazing people. You guys have to, anybody listening, community is vital. It's not just the food that you eat, it's the people you meet who share this wonderful health journey, who can encourage us, and we learn from one another. And some of the people, just a few of the people I mentioned here, and there's so many others, they just encourage us to learn more. I learn from everybody. Everybody is a teacher, and we learn from everybody's different perspective. So again, if you have any questions at all, let me see if I can get rid of that. There it is. Any questions, go ahead and leave them. Before they pop up, somebody, I think it was Christy, you mentioned food noise. That's the new jingle word I'm hearing all over now, food noise. I didn't hear that not too long ago. Now everybody's talking about it. Let's go around and talk about what your food noise is or was and how you deal with it. And I'll start. Food noise for me is sugar, anything sweet, even if it's an artificial sweetener, it's calling to me. It's begging me to let it in my body. And the only way that I can quell and silence the food noise is abstinence, 100% abstinence. And my brain speaks to me, and 100% is effortless for me. 99.9% where I let a little bit in is the most complicated thing in the world for me. And that's kind of the addiction model for anybody who's addicted to anything. 100% abstinence is actually kind of easy because the answer is always no. So that's how I deal with food noise. It's there, and I think it's easy if you just say no. How about you, George? Food noise?
Yeah, okay. So it's not the sweet sugars; it's the carbohydrates.
Yeah.
Specifically, pizza, pasta. I used to love spaghetti bolognese, and pastry. In this country, we have something called the Cornish pasty, which is the signature dish of the Alex is clapping his hands. And I've got a funny story actually, which is linked to that venison steak that I just ate, because that steak was bought at a market last year down in Honiton, a town of Honiton in Devon. And just behind where we bought the venison steak, which went in the freezer, or the steaks which went in the freezer, there was a bakery, and it had the hot Cornish pasties for sale. And the smell of those Cornish pasties, I could have easily run past the venison stand and gone and raided the Cornish pasty shop, but I didn't. But oddly enough, today I was doing some shopping, and they had hot Cornish pasties for sale there as well. And once again, there's just the smell of the pasties are absolutely delicious, and it very, very nearly triggered me. And again, pizza as well. And my signature dish used to be spaghetti bolognese. So yeah, that is my food noise really. It's not so much the sweet stuff. It is the smell of a pizza, the smell of a pasty, or the smell of spaghetti bolognese. That can trigger me, but I've held firm, and yeah, I can actually ignore the food noise now. So yeah, that's my food noise, and I've broken it. I've broken it.
Okay, well, my food noise, it's related to sugar, but it's alcohol. Something a lot of people don't talk about. I'm not an alcoholic, but what carnivore's done for me, it's made me identify and recognize my, shall we say, weaker habits. I started drinking alcohol in Liverpool when I was 15. And so that's over 50 years I've been practicing trying to get it right. But I started drinking quite heavily about the UK lockdowns. Just before I became 60, I was in a place where, I don't know whether it applies to everybody, but I just never told anybody about my depression. I was thinking, I'm getting to a fork in the road. I'm going to be 60. I'm going to be over the hill. And my weight was getting bigger. And my health was deteriorating. Wasn't doing any physical sports. And what I would do was, in my stressful job, I would turn to alcohol about hump day on a Wednesday. And it would be, a bottle of wine. My wife would be on a shift pattern with whatever job she was doing. And that would turn into a second bottle. By the time she came home, it was like I couldn't speak. Sitting there thinking I'm enjoying myself, thinking I am. But what I was doing was I was doing rewards, stress busting, any excuse basically to, have a glass of wine or a beer or three. And it got to the point where my family actually challenged me well before Carnivore and said, Dad, my daughter and my son said, Dad, we can see that you're just not the guy that we love and respect. And, we've been with all our lives. They're 24 and 33 now, my daughter, Sophie and Alex. But it was a real punch in the face for me, because it was me being stubborn, denying it, which a lot of people do. But what happened with Carnivore, it made me recognize that, this having alcohol was slowing me down anyway, because obviously there was carbs. It was, drinking wheat, malt, it's all sugar based. And if anything was going to slow me down, it was going to be the alcohol. So what I've done, with the support of my family, I've said, listen, guys, I need to quell this. I'm almost at a point where I don't even think about it anymore, but I still use it as a stress buster. Or, I've done it in my first year in Carnival. I was doing so well. So what am I going to do? I'm going to have a beer, which is it's almost like a paradox, isn't it? It's the wrong thing to do. And so I'm learning as I go along, all the benefits I've had. I've had so many compliments from people, but it's always there. It's like when, with the desserts and when we go out socializing, these things are around all the time, but you've got to have the guts, the stoicism to say, this is my life. I want a legacy for my children. I want to be a fit granddad. And that's the news I wanted to talk about today. I became a granddad on the 7th of May. After Sophie struggling with PCOS, she'd gone carnivore, spoke to Kilts, went to a conference in December with many similar carnivores. And it's all these things that were happening in my life, particularly with the community side of it. That's mental strength that I've got. It's really allowed me to say, listen, I'm struggling with this. I would not have done it before Carnival, but Carnival has definitely given me that trigger to say, right, this is probably the last weakness that you've got. Remember Kerry Mann saying recently, he's got no addictions. And I was like, wow, that's what I want to do. I want to get to the point where one coffee a day, that's no more. I've got rid of Diet Coke. I haven't had Diet Coke for probably about 12 months now. But the alcohol thing is still there as my little sort of, my bête noire, my black devil saying, come on, Alex, you've done really well on this. But it's that argument isn't about if you were an alcoholic or you were a drug taker. You wouldn't have a little line of heroin, would you? Or, another little Jack Daniels just to celebrate. And I think I have to really apply that to what I'm doing. And so, I'm really happy about what I'm doing, but I'm not patting myself on the back.
Thank you.
So I addressed my food noise a little bit in my introduction, but I can expand on it. So I definitely would crave all of the sugary things and everything from ice cream to donuts, that kind of thing. And then also the salty things as well, chips and things like that, or crisps, I think you guys call them.
Yes, that's correct.
Yes, crisps. But I thought of food as calories. I didn't think of food ever as nutrition. So when I was trying to keep my weight down, it was like I would be that person that would gladly trade in my dinner for some M&Ms and a Diet Coke because it's just calories. And as long as I don't overdo it on my calories, it's fine. In fact, I grew up in the era of, sugar just means you just got to brush your teeth so you don't get sent to the dentist kind of a thing. My mom certainly didn't teach me, don't eat sugar for any reason like that. It was there, right? And I could have it. And she bought definitely a lot of processed food, as a lot of parents do, as I did as well. And so it just really was calories for me. And if I wasn't eating it, then I was thinking about eating it, or how can I portion it out? If it was in the refrigerator, ice cream or what have you, it would kind of call to me and I would just try to control my portions, but it really was controlling me. I wasn't really controlling it. It was for sure controlling me. Even when I went keto, I still did a lot of tracking of my food during that time because I still just really had to rely on that because I couldn't control certain parts of that food. Like I would eat nuts or cream cheese or fat bomb type of things, and I couldn't control them. So I would go take a handful and say, this is going to be my portion. But it's still in the cupboard. And I would go back for a second handful and a third handful. Yep. Very difficult to control. And it took a lot of mental effort. So most of my life, to sum up on that, was just a lot of mental effort around food and trying to control myself so that I didn't put on a bunch of weight. And when I went carnivore, it didn't take long before that control. As long as kind of like what John was saying, if I just stick to my meat and my eggs, then I don't get that craving for fill in the blank thing. And even now, 2 years in, I can be at a social gathering where other people are eating birthday cake, and I don't even want it. It just doesn't even seem appealing to me anymore. It certainly wasn't that way in the beginning, right? It took some adaptation time, I think, for me to get there. But I know it's got to be really what's happening, that it just, my body knows the nutrients that it needs, and that's what I want. And my son has the same result. So like I said, he's, I don't know if I said his age, but he's 16. We were recently at a family gathering, and it was a birthday gathering, and everybody was eating all the birthday desserts, and not all of his, but many of his cousins were there. So he's sitting there at the table with his cousins, and they're all eating cake and ice cream, and he's eating nothing after having had his, burger patties with cheese, for dinner. And he's perfectly fine sitting there having a conversation with his cousins and not having dessert, not asking for dessert, not bringing something with him that's, more keto. I won't say that he never has like a keto dessert, but it's so rare. I don't even know the last time, because I started him off making those for him, and then I think we still have some in the freezer, and he just doesn't even go for them anymore. So he, being 16 years old and really experiencing, the same thing as I do, with you could just even be around it, and not feel the need to consume that anymore. It's so freeing. So for me, it's like the noise that was in my head telling me go eat this thing or that thing, or just go through the drive-through and get this treat or that whatever. That's just gone. Right. And so I think there's a question about that I'm sure John's going to address next. But yeah, it dovetails into that question nicely, because it does leave me a lot more free time to do things that I want to do instead of, things just obsessing about food.
All right. You know what? You start then. Have you folks noticed an increase in daily accomplishments since going carnivore? And then we'll go clockwise again.
We'll go in reverse order. I'll just keep on talking. John knows I've been a teacher for 25 years. I can talk.
We're teachers. No, address this. Yeah.
I talk for a living. Okay, so Carnivore Hercules is asking, have you folks noticed an increase in daily accomplishments since going carnivore? So I'm going to say absolutely 100% yes. For one example, I'm a wife, I'm a mom of 2, and I have a full-time career, and now I run a YouTube channel. I never, ever, ever would have had the energy to do that had it not been for carnivore. So that in itself, those of you, I think all of you guys on the screen with me know how much work goes into doing videos and things for YouTube. It's a lot of work. And so, but I actually do enjoy it. I look forward to it. John and I have done many collaborations on projects together. And, it just created, I think, a really neat friendship, as well as other people in this space. And so those are things that have opened up to me, since going carnivore. Whereas before, it was like I would drag my sorry self to work, barely putting one foot in front of the other, just trying to have energy to get through the day. I would pray for 3:00 to come so I could just come home and sit on the couch. And it was just, that's what I would do, right? Because I have to provide for my family. And if I didn't have to do that, I probably wouldn't have gotten off the couch to go to my job. But it was like, you got to do it. And so now I just find that I have much more energy. I'm willing to take on things and challenges, both, in my career. I know my students notice that I have a lot of energy. I talk to them about eating protein and things all the time. There was one point that I did a race with my students, like a foot race, like a sprint, where we were racing, things like that, things that I never would have taken on before. And then just my attitude about it too. Like sometimes I'll just go to work and feel happy for no reason at all, instead of dreading the day. So, definitely my increase in both my energy and my output, I guess, I'd say have increased. And we're going in reverse order. So yes. Over to you.
Thank you, Christy.
Yeah, great. Well, like Christy, I'm a teacher as well, but I'm a swim teacher, so I'm allowed to shout at my kids because basically to stop them drowning. On the swim teaching side of it, I've been doing it for 17 years since I took my early retirement from a very stressful local government job, 33-year career. And that was probably one of the things that knocked me over onto depression. Was I didn't know what to do, but I found swim teaching because I volunteered, and let's say when doors open, you walk through them, and I became a top coach, shall we say, to all the Olympic swimmers in the UK. I was doing events contracts for Steve Parry, Becky Adlington, all the top Olympians, and that was the best thing that ever happened to me. But what's happened since lockdown? All the work went, and then obviously I got into carnivore. Unfortunately for me, and maybe because I was being so positive, I got offered work at my local sports centre, and in September last year, they gave me a new job. I actually applied for the job, and I got a permanent contract. Now, I did a video on it thinking, I'm 66, and I'm applying for the job. I'm in the interview shaking like a little kid. And the sense of achievement I got I hadn't done an interview for 30, 40 years. And I got complacent, and I just thought to myself, I'm the oldest swim teacher in town. I feel great. I can run rings around the young lifeguards who are in the 20s. And they're saying to me all the time, Alex, I can't believe you're 66. And I'm like, yeah, neither can I. But But I say it all the time. I wear it on my sleeve because I feel so proud of how I feel losing all the mental stuff. I mean, even things like I started renovating garden furniture 2 years ago, and my wife's sitting in the garden with me, and I'm de-rusting all this stuff, and she's going, "This particular diet is really changing you, hon. I would never have done anything like that ever." Any tasks and anything domestic she wants me to do, it's like, yeah, sure, great. And she's like, for 3 years now, she's like, we're on a roll, so I'm not gonna tell them not to do it anymore. But it's almost changed our relationship. We've been together 40 years. 40 years in July. And she said, I've never seen you so active, vibrant, effervescent. And I said, Shell, it's got to be the diet. Not just the diet, but the eliminating all the crap, all the processed junk, which I wasn't really a fan of, but it was definitely vegetables, plants. A plant-based diet was doing nothing for me. And the carnivore diet's just lit the blue torch paper. I'm on fire. But yet things like you get a new job, doing garden renovations, doing the chores that I never used to do. Michelle thinks she's got a brand new husband. So, okay, George, up to you.
Okay, yeah. So it's all about the energy, really, isn't it, folks? It's I'm 59, going on 60. I'll be 60 on September. I'm virtually John's twin because I happen to know that he will be 60 very shortly, just before me. So he's not the old man here tonight, is he, Alex? But he's slightly older than me. So at the age of 60, I suddenly find myself changing my career. I was really on the downward spiral towards retirement as quickly as I could. I was that ill that I was trying to get disability here in the UK, but the NHS thankfully didn't play ball. So now at the age of 60, I'm going to use my teaching skills because I'm a qualified teacher, same as the rest of us here. I qualified in 2004 as a teacher of English as a foreign language to adults. So I'm a qualified adult education teacher. However, life got in the way, and a company that I used to work for as a security type chap made me an offer I couldn't refuse. So I never actually got to use my teaching English as a foreign language. However, those teaching skills I learned have stood me in good stead in the construction industry because I am front of house, I meet and greet, and I have won awards for the health and safety briefings that I give, and that was basically learned in the classroom. So, yeah, the teaching skills are there. However, I am just about to embark upon a brand new teaching life because I have signed up for Kilt's Health, Dr. Kilt's Keto Carnivore coaching course, which starts on July the 1st and will last for 13 weeks. I know a little bit more about it this week than I did last because Dr. Kilt's and Alia and Dr. Nelson Vasquez were discussing it on one of their morning 6 a.m. meetups with Dr. Kilt's. It's 11 a.m. our time. So I do try and bob in and out from work. And apparently we are going to have 13 weekly lessons with Dr. Nelson, which will last 60 to 90 minutes. And we'll also have some coursework to do, which we will receive by email. Lasts for 13 weeks, at the end of which we are going to get a certificate. Dr. Kilt's put Alia on the spot the other day and said, show us a certificate. She said, it's the first course, Dr. Kilt's, but it's being designed still, so it's still 13 weeks away. So yeah, I've got this massive energy now. I work a 60-hour week in construction, but I will be doing this on top of it. Not only that, but as you know, John, I have, you've kindly allowed me to be your co-host on a weekly basis on this show. So that is another project that I have going on in the background. And as Alex will know, I am the originator of the first Great British Meetup, which is happening on August the 2nd of this year, very near the town of Glastonbury, the famous of the Glastonbury Festival, which is actually going to happen next weekend. And that is taking up a lot of my time and also Alex's time on account of the fact that he's also a committee member. We have a fabulous committee, but it is very time consuming, and it was stressful, but it's not anymore because everything is going horribly smoothly. We've got the speakers in place. The speakers will be Richard Smith, Keto Pro, and Coach Stephen, as well as some warm-up speakers, which is myself, Alex, Steph Taylor, who was on here with us last week, and Lauren Tucker, who is quite famous for her role in healing humanity. She and Alex have actually been interviewed by Kerry for Healing Humanity, so they will be in the documentary. And the Master of Ceremonies, the MC, is Carl Day of the Primal Lifestyle. So there are 5 of us sharing about 2 hours, warming up before our main speakers come on. But we've engineered it so it's not one of those carnival conferences where everybody has to be seated all day and there's like minor breaks, little lunch break. We are finishing around 1400 hours, and then we're straight into lunch, which is going to be a hog roast, beef roast and lamb roast, a raffle at 4 o'clock, and then a disco at 5:30. So it's going to be more of a social event than what it is for your traditional highbrow carnival conference. I think we're all very much looking forward to it. So that's another thing which I've got going on. So yeah, think about it. I'm working a 60-hour week in construction. I'm doing this with you. I'm about to take on the Dr. Kilt's coaching course, and I'm also the originator and the sort of the main driving force behind the Great British Meetup on August the 2nd. 3 years ago, I could barely get out of bed. Now I can barely sleep. 4 to 5 hours a night is all I need. Up in the morning, straight onto WhatsApp, because that's where we all tend to meet up. And oddly enough, Alex, Carl, Lauren, they're all there at 5 o'clock in the morning as well, because they think they've got the same amounts of energy. So we actually get quite a lot of work done before we all go to our day jobs. So yeah, carnivore energy, it's boundless. It really is. And yeah, I couldn't have done it before. Over to you, John.
Through the roof, just like you. I can't find enough things to do. I used to be a lazy bum. I would constantly plan my life around food, around the next meal. Part of that was the way I was raised, Italian. Everything was focused on the kitchen and the food and the shopping and the cooking and what are we going to have next. And that carried on into my adulthood when I became an independent person, a teacher, and it all caught up with me. And now I don't do that at all. I plan my meals 3 days in advance by just pulling something out of the freezer, sits on the countertop, one goes in the refrigerator, one goes in the other freezer, and it progresses as the days go by. I have meat to cook. I have eggs in the fridge. I don't have to think about food except for a few minutes as I'm making it, and it is pretty quick when I make my food. I have a smoker. I know I'm getting off a different topic, but I have different devices to cook my food, but they are so not time consuming that I have all this other time to exercise, ride my bike, go to the gym. I wrote a book. I've been retired 3 years now. I wrote 8 articles and I decided I can now do this. I'm going to write a book, and I did, and I finished it and I published it. And then this recording studio that I have right here, see my microphone, right here in this spot, I recorded the audio version of the book. A lot of people don't have the equipment to do that. It didn't cost me that. I have all this time and I'm loving it because I love to be busy. I'm a busy person. I'm a type A. Being a teacher, Christy knows this, we function very well when we get things accomplished, one thing after another. So when I retired, I continued. I never stopped really, but I just transferred all that energy, and being carnivore has freed up even more energy. Which brings us to the next topic that George brought up, and I think Alex did too, and that's sleep. I don't need as much sleep. They say you have to have 7 or 8 hours of sleep a night for health and repair, but as we get older, we do need less sleep. But my sleep is more uninterrupted. It's more sound, but I don't sleep as much. I go to sleep around 11 and I'm up around 5. Sometimes 4:30, and I can't go back to sleep. I have to get up and I just do things, right? I'm sitting here waiting until the gym opens because they're not even open yet. So let's talk about sleep as we go around. We'll go clockwise again. We'll go back to George. How is your sleep? How has it changed on carnivore? I think you addressed it.
Yeah, I just don't need as much of it anymore, John. I'm wide awake now. I've been up since 4:30 this morning, I think. It's now 6 p.m. in the UK. I'm probably going to wrap this up, and then I'll have another couple of hours at least before I can even think about trying to go to sleep, because there's absolutely no point in going up and lying there and just staring at the ceiling. Right. So I'll probably reflect on this. So my wife Lainey is sat in the kitchen, and we'll go, and she'll probably give me a critique about how I did tonight. And she is, believe me, my biggest critic. Yeah, so that's the thing. It's 5 hours or 6 hours maximum nowadays. I can't sleep any more than that. The energy, my brain is just working on so many different levels at the moment. I just cannot remain asleep. But the sleep I do get is refreshing. And actually, there's one thing which I'll time with what Alex said. I was quite famous in the carnivore community for the first 3 years of going low carb carnivore. So I did a lot of interviews, but I was still drinking heavily, the alcohol. And that would knock me unconscious, but it would also mean that I had no energy in the morning. And it would also mean probably 7 or 8 hours sleep a night. As I think I've told various people around the world now, I actually gave up drinking 98 days ago, so 13 weeks ago. I actually had a light bulb moment. I didn't wean myself off it. I just had a very bad experience for a week when I was on holiday, drank far too much, maybe didn't behave very well, to be perfectly honest with you. And then I sat down one day at the very end of that holiday before going back to work on the Monday and thought, I'm done. That's me and alcohol, done. So I've been an abstainer ever since, and my energy now is just absolutely amazing. So yeah, it's the getting rid of the alcohol has been a great thing. One word on alcohol though, and that's it. Whilst I was still drinking heavily, the NHS did the blood tests on me, and my liver function test came back perfectly every time, and that was still drinking heavily. In fact, the nurse who last reviewed with me my blood tests, she said, "Oh, you got a liver function test, perfect liver function test." Now, nearly always the NHS say, "How much you drink a week?" The alcohol police. She didn't bother asking me, so I said, "Nurse, aren't you going to ask me how much I drink a week?" She said, no, because you got perfect. So you're obviously a non-drinker. I said, I'm a heavy drinker. And she looked at me and laughed and thought I was lying to her. So I had to give her a very sincere stare and said, no, I drink, quite often 2 bottles of wine a night, very much as Alex used to. And she just shook her head in disbelief and said, well, clearly it's not affecting you. And at that time, and still now, that I don't drink anymore, but I have this belief that alcohol has been arrested, tried, convicted of the crimes of fructose, because, as I said, once I gave up the fructose, the fatty liver disappeared. Once I gave up the carbohydrates, the fatty liver disappeared. Yes, admittedly, I was getting some aldehydes through alcohol and some carbohydrates through alcohol, but my liver repaired itself despite the fact that I was drinking alcohol. But when it comes to the brain, yeah, my brain is much clearer now than it was when I was drinking alcohol. So I can tell people, the opposite. The best practice for optimal health is to stay away from the alcohol. So yeah, that's me now, full of energy, irritatingly happy, irritatingly energetic. Just ask my wife. Lady, I'm sure will probably put something in comments in a minute. So yeah, it's my life is just totally different now. It really is. Who's next?
Yeah, great. Yeah. 2 years ago, I had an interview with Kerry Mann. It was one of the first times I've been on. I've been on Carnivore a year, but reached out to Kerry, and he was asking me questions about sleep. He was really interested in it. I said, I sleep like a grizzly bear. I said, I can't believe I'm even saying that. I said, because I don't snore anymore. And that happened in the first couple of days. Woke up one morning, Michelle was like, I didn't have to give you the elbow last night. There was no bruises on the ribs. And so, having put up with it for years with the acid reflux or omeprazole, and all of a sudden I was getting about 7 hours sleep, but I tried to describe it to him that it was a calmer sleep, and it was much deeper as well. It was like going down in like a sleep elevator and staying down there for hours. And I would wake up the next day and say, Shell, I had this dream, and I'd be describing it for like 5 minutes. And she goes, you never used to dream. It was like almost like a story, and it was dead detailed and almost like watching a movie in your head, because it seemed to have, sometimes you can't remember your dreams, or you think, and you said, what was that all about last night? So I'd wake up the next day and go, wow, that dream was amazing. And there would be a storyline. But the next day, as I say, I'll be getting up earlier, but I was saying to Michelle, I'm not snoring. I've got no more acid reflux, and I'm sleeping like a baby. And that's one thing that did resonate with a lot of people who watched that interview. We had nearly 300,000 views, and everyone was saying, sleep is the killer. And it's almost priceless. If we've got good sleep, it is priceless, isn't it? And I think that's definitely what Carnivore's brought to all of us here today.
Yeah, so my sleep, Right now I get about 7 hours of sleep a night. And oh, hi, Kitty. And what
Yes.
what makes it different on carnivore versus not is before I've always my whole life just fallen right asleep. Like falling asleep is not the issue. My husband does not know how I do it. Like he could be talking to me and I'm out. If I'm tired, I'm sleeping. But I used to wake up multiple times throughout the night. And I no longer do that. If I wake up, it might be once, it might be no times. And I sleep 7 hours. And similarly to what the others have said, it's like a deeper, more refreshing sleep. So I wake up instead of waking up just dreadful of, okay, well, I just woke up. So when can my nap be? It's like I wake up and I'm ready to start my day and all the things that I have to do, which admittedly on summer vacation is not as many things as when school is going on. But come August, when we go back, it looks like I wake up, I make breakfast for my kid. I have to drive him completely 180 degrees in the opposite direction to take him to school.
Oh, wow.
I know it makes my 8-minute commute into a 45-minute commute just to get my son to school every day. And then I teach. I have 32 students coming to me next year with people often ask me, do I get an aide? John, why don't you answer that? Do we get a teacher's aide because we have 32 students in the room?
Oh, I would have had 3 aides. Seriously, some of my classes were up past 40 because I was an elective.
Yeah. No, we don't. And I'm not going to have an aide. So it's me and 3210 and 11-year-olds. And I have energy to do all of that. And then usually I come home and, make some dinner, do some things for YouTube and things like that. So the energy that I get from the sleep and from eating meat, and I think the fat really for me has a lot to do with it, is just a game changer. It's just so nice to be able to lay in bed and not like, I used to feel like I could remember the entire night. Like that used to be the feeling I'd have because I woke up so frequently.
Oh, wow.
Now it's like my head hits the pillow, I go to sleep, and then I wake up and it's just like, I don't really need an alarm clock. It's just time to get up. I'm refreshed and ready to go for the day.
Oh, John's gone.
Yeah,
I think we've lost John.
I was going to talk for another 5 minutes. He thought he had time.
Yeah, absolutely. He did this last week as well, actually. Oh, he's back. Yeah, there he is. He's back again. John, you're back. You left us very briefly, my friend. I think he's still on mute.
I wonder if he can hear us.
I don't think he can. He doesn't look like he can. So we'll just have to try and hold the fort while John's sorting himself out.
Awesome. Let's talk about our favorite cuts of meat, everybody.
Okay.
I can hear you, but I have to, this does this every once in a while. It's such a pain in the neck. I have to fix my sound here. I'm almost back.
Okay.
All right. My next question.
Sorry, I'm going to say, John, we're talking about meat, aren't we? We're talking about meat.
I'm back now. All right, let's go with that. I was going to do something. Every once in a while, the sound cuts out. I go back. I come back in. All right, favorite cuts to me. I know what Christy's going to say.
You know why I brought it up, John.
I know why you brought it up because you could talk about it. But I'm going to go first on this one, and you're going to go last on this one.
It's fine.
No, I can say that. It is one of my favorite cuts. But we just had last night a prime rib, and prime rib can be very expensive. Okay, a standing rib roast, which is a little lesser quality than a prime rib. And I buy them as many as I can around the holidays because they're on sale. So I get one that's, I don't go by, just this big. It's about $40, $35. I mean, they're on sale. So I grab 3 or 4 or 5 of them, put them in my deep freeze. So I pulled one out from like 3 months ago, thawed it out. We put it on our Traeger grill, which is a smoker, which is how I do my picanha. And oh my goodness, we put the long-term thermometer in there, and I just wait until the temperature reaches 122 degrees internal temperature. We take it off, we cover it, we let it sit until it hits about 128, 130, which is how I like it, which is like between rare and medium rare. And it's smoked, the smoky. That was last night. I cut the bone off. Right. And I sit there and gnaw on the bone like a wild animal. I get so much pleasure out of eating meat off of the bone. Different from when you slice it on the plate with the fork and put it in your mouth. I don't know what it is, but when I have something in my hands and I'm gnawing and pulling with my teeth the meat off the bone, I'm in heaven. I'm saying ooh and ah and the whole time I'm eating the food. And it's just wonderful. So that's really one of my favorite meals. I won't go into all of them because it's kind of hard to say that's my only favorite. But what about you, George?
Okay, so I'm slightly different. We'll go to what my go-to meat first, because I eat raw Monday to Friday at work. I eat raw steak, and that particular steak, which I prefer, is a 10-ounce lamb steak, lamb leg steak. I eat it raw with a bit of salt and a tiny little bit of mustard, because I found a very clean mustard called French's, which is actually a USA mustard, which we can get over here. And that gives it a bit of flavor. The texture of raw meat is superb, but it lacks a little bit of flavor, but the salt and the mustard gives it to me. So I eat maybe 2 or 3 of those a day, and that is pretty much the way I eat Monday to Friday. However, at the weekends, it's different because I'm at home. And Lainey likes to cook, and so, for example, as you know, I had the venison steak this evening, and it was absolutely superb, and that's probably my favorite cut of meat as of today. However, we also have the roasts. We have roast lamb, roast beef, and we also love roast veal, which is a roast veal, which is a naturally raised calf, not like the white veal, which when they're kept in crates, that is very tender and absolutely delicious. Not so big on the pork or the chicken anymore because they're monogastric. I'm a great believer in the benefits of eating the ruminant animals, because at the end of the day, what we're eating is processed grass, and they are the most efficient processors of the grass out there. You could almost argue that we're vegan, because on account of the fact that all we're eating is grass that's been processed in a factory known as a ruminant animal. So yeah, that's the reason why I like my steak versus the pork or the chicken or any of the others. So yeah, Monday to Friday, mainly raw lamb steak. At the weekend, whatever Lainey serves up, and that venison steak today was superb. So there we go. Alex?
Yeah, I only shop at Stanson's, my local trade butchers, and I get everything from them. It was sirloins for the first year, so I'd always get a big roast. I got that inspiration from a US YouTuber called something butcher. I can't remember his name now, but he used to say, don't get the trays, get yourself a roast or a joint and cut it up. And so I've gone from sirloins to ribeyes, which were my go-to last year, and now I'm into chuck roast. So I'm going US style. The last brisket I got about 2 weeks ago was 10 kilograms. I was doing a YouTube video in the car, and it just took up the whole screen. I was thinking, and again, if anybody who's new to carnivore, the cost saving was phenomenal. It was like 15 English pounds a kilo, and I mean, it's about nearly 40 pounds a kilo now for ribeyes in my area in the northwest of England. So briskets and a large chuck roast. I mean, I cut them up. You have 4 or 5 actual pieces, get them in the crock pot. And Michelle, my wife, although she's probably keto to a degree, she still likes the vegetables. She is really getting the taste. She's not a lover of ribeye, but she loves that the way, you know, the chuck roast melts with extra butter on top and the salt. And I found that I'm starting to eat too much of it because you haven't got that chewing action of the ribeye, even though the ribeyes are soft. With the chuck roast, it's just melts in your mouth. And I've sat there a few times with Shell, which I don't normally do on carnivore. I said, I think I've had too much. I'm really feeling, you know, to the point now where, you know, Chafee says, you know, eat till you're satiated. But I'm like, I just can't stop putting this thing in my mouth. It's just unbelievable. So answer to the question at the moment is chuck roast for me. Christy?
So my son's favorite is chuck roast, to the extent that I make him a chuck roast, and then even though I like it, I don't touch it because that's going to be his food. Like I'll put 3 or 4 pounds in the crock pot, similar. Yeah. He loves it. But my favorite is picanha, and it is absolutely delicious. I eat it, oh gosh, probably 5 times a week. I'll just buy, it comes as a small roast. It's the end of the sirloin. So you talked about the sirloin there. The picanha is the end of the sirloin. So you can also find it under the name sirloin cap. If you've ever eaten at a Brazilian steakhouse, the picanha is kind of their center. That's what they kind of feature. Very delicious. But what I do is I buy it in a small roast, usually between 3 and 4 pounds. I put Redmond smoked salt all over it because I don't have the Traeger smoker thing that John has. I don't have any of that fancy stuff. So, but just the smoked salt. And then I crank up my oven to 500 degrees. I pop it in there for about 12 minutes or so. And then I turn the oven off and just let it cool off in there for about an hour and a half to 2 hours. And then I take it out and slice it up. And it is so good. In fact, I had leftover picanha for breakfast this morning with a couple of over easy eggs. And it was delicious. So if you've never tried picanha, I'm officially, I think, the picanha ambassador for people discovering this cut, because it's ribeyes too here have gotten so expensive, and it's about half the cost of a ribeye.
It really is. Yeah.
Really tender, really good.
It is. And picanha is that perfect ratio of fat to protein. It has that huge fat cap that almost gelatin. It becomes translucent when it cooks. And with my leftovers, I was talking about making my bone broth soup in the last Sunday episode. I think I cut the leftovers with all that fat into little cubes, put it in my bone broth, and the texture is like melted marshmallows on my tongue. But of course it's not. It's just creamy. It's absolutely phenomenal. Picanha is so versatile. It's such a great steak. It really is. And I never knew what it was.
Yeah.
About a year ago. So someone introduced it to me. So pretty cool. So, one of the topics I was going to talk about, which was brought up earlier, and we went to different topics, is alcohol. So let's go back around and talk about that again, because that's a problem for some people. I'll start. For me, I never liked it. I never liked the taste, the smell, the odor, and how it made me feel when I tried to get drunk in college because everybody did it. I tried to be like everybody else, and for me, the way my brain is wired, I never liked it. So it was the easiest thing for me to abstain from alcohol. Even to this day, it doesn't even exist to me. When I see it in the store, it's like I'm looking at cigarettes. I don't touch them. But I have a lot of friends, and I know a lot of people that it is like my sugar is to me, my sugar addiction. That's what alcohol is like to them. And it's very, very difficult to abstain. And people have to do it their own way and find their own way to do it. I find that the answer can lie with the knowledge. I did a video on YouTube a couple of days ago on alcohol. And when you have the knowledge of what it is, how it ferments off of sugar, what it does to the liver, to all the organs in the body, the brain, the metabolism, even though the liver is very resilient and can heal very quickly, when you have the knowledge and you constantly look at that knowledge, I find that's the best piece of armor if you have trouble abstaining from alcohol. Because once you know, you can't unring that bell. I know what you're going to grab it on purpose. You're going to drink it. And you're going to know what it's doing to every part of your body. So let's go around how alcohol is different for all of you as it is for me. So George, you quit.
I did. Absolutely.
And
after a very long time.
How did you do it other than, you had the strength because of carnivore to quit, or you said that your liver enzymes still came back good anyway, probably because you're eating carnivore, but it was probably slowing you down mentally too, right?
Yeah, definitely. The thing is that a few weeks ago, I would have had a good drink at lunchtime, good alcohol, and I'd be asleep by now at 6 o'clock in the evening here in the UK, or nearly 7 o'clock. I certainly would not have been able to do this. So that's one thing. But I think the most important thing, well, not most important, but an interesting thing is how I actually started drinking alcohol. It was my father who encouraged it, because at the age of 13, he decided that if I was to start drinking beer, then I would learn to respect it. I would drink moderately like he did. Unfortunately, it was highly counterintuitive, because basically when I had my first beer, I fell in love with the stuff. I love the taste, still do today. So from the age of 13 onwards, I was drinking, and then in the British Army during my time back in the 1980s, it was pretty much epidemic alcohol. There was subsidized alcohol, and all of us drank, and most of us drank fairly heavily. So that was my 20s. I carried on in my 30s and 40s, but it wasn't really until I went carnivore that I couldn't handle it anymore, because I lost all this weight, 120 pounds, and suddenly it would go straight to my brain. And I would lose my memory very quickly, would become quite unpleasant. And I lost my balance, would have to sleep far too long, feel like crud in the morning. And I said, in March of this year, I had a week's holiday, which was traditionally a drinking week, which it was. I didn't really enjoy it very much because I couldn't remember it to begin with. And then on the Sunday, I sat there feeling very sorry for myself with a drink in my hand, thinking, that's me done. And it was really the carnival energy, the carnival strength that allowed me to start on day one, which was March the 17th, actually. It was St. Patrick's Day. And here I am now on June the 22nd, and not a drop of alcohol since. But, and there is a big but to this, I've discovered a zero alcohol beer, which has a very good taste of beer called Peroni Zero, but it's 0.0% alcohol. And that is my go-to. Yes, it has carbohydrates in it, but I'm so clean when it comes to everything I chew in my mouth that it seems to have very, very little detrimental effect on me whatsoever. In fact, I'll probably, once I've finished tonight, I'll probably go and have another couple of bottles of this Peroni Zero while I get the review from Lainey and before I go to bed. So yeah, that's my alcohol story. Yeah, I still drink coffee, still drink Peroni 0.0. So when it comes to liquid forms, I'm probably not the perfect carnivore. But as our great friends Larry Orhan said, John, don't let the pursuit of perfection stand in the way of excellence.
Excellent.
So I have achieved excellence, not perfection, but I'm happy with 4 out of 5. So that's my story when it comes to alcohol.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice one, George. I think with me, I think carnivore helped me face the issue. I would not even accept that there was an issue. But Michelle, when I was doing carnivore at the beginning, said, do you think this will help you, babe? And I said, yeah, because as George was saying, I couldn't handle it because there's no carbs going in. I haven't got the subcutaneous fat anymore absorbing everything. And I would have a drink and go, I'm almost slurring here because it's going straight to my brain. And so if anything's going to put you off doing, it's the reaction, the carnivore reaction you're getting to this. And as I said before, with Kerry Mann talking about he's got no addictions. I mean, I've got no meds anymore. I used to be on BP tablets. I was on omeprazole. I was carrying all this mental and physical baggage. And so the last thing I've now got to really, face up to 100% is alcohol. And I know I can do it. And things like this, it's a great therapy to be able to talk to, relative strangers, but, carnivore friends. And to be able to talk about this publicly is hard for a lot of people. But I find that I'm drinking less and less. I haven't got the stress in my life, so I can't even use stress busting as an excuse. It's all about getting away from, right, this is my reward. My reward should be a ribeye or a chuck roast or a brisket. And 99% of the times it is. But again, the therapy is talking to people like yourselves and saying, yes, it has been a problem. It's a challenge. And I look at stoicism, and one of the pillars, I think, is having the guts or the courage to change. And change is almost, it's a constant thing. And even at my age now, I always tell people I'm 66, nearly 67, but, I can change and say, right, you know what, guys, I'm only halfway through my life. Like Chafee says, we should be here till 20. Well, now that I'm a granddad, I'll be encouraging my daughter to have more kids anyway. But, why not be super fit? Why not be a swim teacher when I'm in my 80s? Why not? We're all teachers and we're all at Sunday school today, which is quite nice. And I know that none of us are going to put our feet up and say, you know what, screw this, I'm not going to do anything anymore. To me, it's like Maggie White says, we're just getting started. And that's how I feel. I can talk about alcohol. It's a bloody nuisance. It gets in the way, but it's all down to me. If I don't change, nothing's going to change. And I know Michelle, when she's on a holiday at the moment, working holiday, when she watches this, she'll be going, you better stick to your guns because I'm listening to you, But yeah, that's how I feel about it, John. I've realized that there's an addiction there, just like sugar, like all our different addictions we have. And it's down to me to change.
Thank you. Yep.
So my story with alcohol is very similar to John and some of the comments I've seen too, like Rick. It just never appealed to me. And not that I didn't ever try it. So, it always just made me feel gross. And so I'm actually very thankful for that. I see a lot of teachers, after the teaching day, they can't wait to go home and have their wine, or they'll say, I ordered extra wine for the summer because I need all of this alcohol, after the year I've had. And so while I can certainly understand that, and I can understand, the stress that they're under and what might lead to that, it's just for me, alcohol wasn't ever my go-to. It was definitely more food for me.
Can I just jump back in here a sec, John?
Yes.
I've given up the alcohol without actually using AA, the Alcoholics Anonymous, or anything, or their 12-step plan. However, I have stolen one thing from them, which is the Serenity Prayer, which goes something like, God grant me the serenity to accept the things that I can't change, the courage to change the things that I can change, and the wisdom to know the difference. So, yeah, I basically decided, I was given the serenity to realize that I could change alcohol. And I think Carnivore probably gave me the courage necessary to do so. And obviously, it's, there are certain things that can't be changed in life, and that's where the wisdom comes in. So those three important words, which I use now, I'm not a churchgoer, but yeah, I love the Serenity Prayer, and it's been quite important in my transition.
Great. Thank you for sharing. We're at the top of the hour. I want to be respectful of everybody's time, and I want to process this video and send it to you. So before we leave, let's just do a very, very quick wrap up and share where we can find you on the internet. I'm on YouTube under Carnivore Teacher and other social media sites. What about you, George? You're just right?
Yeah, I've got a very tiny YouTube channel, which now I've got a new computer, will actually be expanding, which is George Goodenough 823. You can find me there on YouTube. I've recently been come onto Facebook, and I'm very active on Facebook as nowadays as well. And I also use WhatsApp quite a lot. We do have an open WhatsApp group here in the UK called Carnivores UK. If anybody wants to join it, contact me and I'll get you through the admins. Alex and myself are on a much smaller WhatsApp group, which originated in August 2023, which is kind of the originals. And that's where we discuss some of the important things like the meetup going forward and that sort of thing. I'm not on Instagram, not on TikTok. So yeah, WhatsApp, YouTube and Facebook is where you'll find me.
Okay. Yeah, Carnivore for life. I called it Carnivore for life because I knew I was going to do it for life, and it was giving my life back. I was back to the Alex from before my 50s, before all the depression kicked in, and just thank goodness for Carnivore. But yeah, Carnivore for life. I do it more for my own accountability, as we've been talking about the alcohol. It's a test bed for me. I do watch my videos back and go, am I going to be the guy who's talking there? Or am I going to, go another way? And it really has kept me on the so-called straight and narrows. I don't do much on Facebook nowadays, but there's Carnivore for Life on Facebook. I've done a couple of TikTok posts. I got about 35,000 views on one of them. I don't know why, but I'm not very tech savvy. Michelle's even worse than me, so we're both in the dark about things. I do it for fun, and so I've got 4,500 subscribers at the moment. So it's obviously resonating with some people. I think anyone over 50, when the way we talk, four of us, I can relate to Christy, to George and John. And I think to myself, we've all got to keep doing these things. But yeah, Carnivore for life.
So you can find me on YouTube at Meeting Wellness. And I called it that because similar to Alex, it was like, oh, this isn't just about weight loss. Like there's so many other facets to this. In fact, I don't have 100-pound weight loss at all. My before pictures look like my after pictures. So I can't just post a picture and everyone can see. So if I don't get on and talk about it, people aren't going to know. I know a lot of people are in this for weight loss, but I also know, the other health benefits. And so Meeting Wellness on YouTube, as well as Facebook and Instagram, although I'm not there, as often, but I'm there under that same handle if you want to come and find me.
Fantastic. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. You're going to join us again next Sunday for Sunday School Carnivore, co-hosting with me, George. You're welcome to come back again, Christy, if you like. I'm going to invite my group of people, see who can show up. I can only have 6 on the screen, but I would love to have you back if you'd like to come. And we'll talk about more of this. And it's people watch, they listen, they learn. I know I always do when I watch other people's shows. It's so productive. So everybody who's here, please stay on the screen. I want to give you a proper goodbye. I'm going to end the stream here. Have a good day, everybody.
Yeah. Bye now.
Bye, everybody.